Well, the latest release of Epstein files have revealed bombshell emails from Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York.
25 suitcases followed Sarah Ferguson everywhere she traveled, and one of them contained absolutely nothing but coat hangers. No clothes, no garments, just empty hangers clanking inside. It sounds like a strange comedy scene, but this was real life for the Duchess of York. That bizarre suitcase was only the first glimpse into a financial meltdown so dramatic and so unbelievable that it eventually led to desperate emails asking a convicted criminal for help with rent. It makes people wonder how someone born into comfort, who married directly into the British royal family, could fall into £4 million of debt. A duchess drowning in bills sounds unreal, yet it happened in plain sight. And yes, that Jeffrey Epstein later became her emergency source of money. When private emails surfaced, the fallout was immediate and severe. 7 charities cut ties with her without hesitation. The scandal grew fast, pulling back the curtain on a lifestyle built on excess, poor decisions, and constant spending. This story is bigger than dramatic headlines and far heavier than overpacked luggage. The deeper you look, the more shocking it becomes. In July 1986, the world watched Westminster Abbey as Sarah Ferguson married Prince Andrew in a ceremony that looked like a perfect royal fairy tale. Cameras flashed, crowds cheered, and she stepped into a life of immense privilege that most people can only imagine. Wealth, status, security. It seemed like a future where money problems would never exist. But fairy tales rarely show what happens when someone with unlimited access to luxury has no sense of financial limits. Biographer Andrew Lowney later revealed that warning signs appeared almost immediately. Sarah did not simply enjoy royal comfort. She embraced a level of extravagance that stunned even seasoned observers of elite lifestyles. Her household operated like a luxury hotel staffed for a permanent VIP guest. 17 employees handled her daily needs: a cook, driver, maid, butler, dresser, nanny, 3 secretaries, a personal assistant, a lady-in-waiting, an accountant and assistant, 2 gardeners, a flower arranger, and even a dedicated dog walker. Every detail of her routine received meticulous attention. Staff carefully ironed all her underwear, and if the laundry scent was not exactly right, everything went back to be washed again. The amount of time, water, and effort spent on such tiny details reflected a life disconnected from ordinary concerns. Her nightly routine was just as demanding. 2 hot water bottles were placed in her bed each evening, heated to precise temperature requirements. At breakfast, her orange juice had to be freshly squeezed at the exact moment she sat down, not earlier and not later, or she would refuse to drink it. Staff literally waited with fruit and juicers in hand, ready to act at the precise second. This was not simple luxury. It was rigid entitlement, wrapped in royal privilege. All of this unfolded during the late 1980s and 1990s, while many ordinary families struggled through economic recessions, rising unemployment, and housing difficulties. The contrast between royal indulgence and public hardship felt extreme. Yet the most troubling part was that none of the spending seemed to bring real satisfaction. If luxury truly fulfilled her, the demands would not have kept growing. Instead, each indulgence only created the need for a bigger one. The shopping and spending were not about comfort, but about chasing a feeling that never lasted. Even routine grocery shopping turned into an astonishing display of excess. Around £300 disappeared every week on vegetables alone from an upscale supermarket, totaling more than £15,000 a year just for produce. Much of the food reportedly went uneaten, while freezers filled with untouched desserts. The situation became even more surreal when attention turned to the family dog. Bendix, the Jack Russell, did not eat ordinary pet food. Meals were specially prepared by kitchen staff, including rich dishes like liver sausages served with gravy. The dog's menu often looked more luxurious than the meals of many working families. Meanwhile, family dinners resembled giant medieval feasts with massive portions of beef, lamb, and poultry served at once. Large amounts of perfectly good food were thrown away after meals, creating shocking levels of waste. This pattern showed more than comfort. It revealed a lifestyle detached from financial reality. Money flowed without limits, waste barely mattered, and moderation never entered the picture. None of the expenses built long-term security or meaningful investments. There were no careful business plans or property strategies, only constant consumption driven by impulse. Psychologists describe this behavior as hedonic adaptation, where increasingly large purchases are needed to maintain the same emotional satisfaction. The pattern resembles an addiction, except the resource being consumed is money. While most people eventually hit financial limits, Sarah Ferguson's royal status allowed credit, connections, and privileges to extend far beyond normal boundaries. Those advantages were repeatedly used until the situation became unsustainable. Her travel habits offered one of the most visible symbols of this excess. Each trip involved transporting 25 large suitcases through airports, creating enormous baggage fees that ranged from £800 to £4,000 per journey. While most travelers pack 1 or 2 bags, this scale suggested relocating an entire household. Even more surprising was what those cases contained. 5 suitcases were filled exclusively with toiletries and makeup, packed in overwhelming quantities. And then there was the now famous suitcase packed entirely with empty coat hangers, a detail so strange it became symbolic of the entire lifestyle. Transporting hangers across continents required planning, labor, airline handling, and significant expense, all for items that could easily be replaced anywhere. Staff members likely carried out these unusual packing requests without question, as royal protocol discouraged challenging a duchess's decisions. Airport workers must have watched the mountain of luggage with disbelief, yet few would dare ask why so much was necessary. Privilege often shields extravagance from criticism, allowing unusual behavior to become normalized. The spending did not stop with travel or household luxury. At one point, £65,000 was spent on a personal trainer, a reasonable investment for many wealthy individuals seeking consistent fitness guidance. However, records indicated the trainer was used only twice. Each session effectively cost £32,500, more than many people earn in an entire year. Such extreme expenses reflected more than poor budgeting. They showed a pattern of impulsive decisions fueled by status, access, and the assumption that financial consequences could always be postponed. Over time, those unchecked choices quietly built a mountain of debt that even royal connections could not easily resolve. Flying a personal trainer first class from Los Angeles to London, putting them in a 5-star hotel, and paying them generously would have cost far less than what actually happened. Yet one monthly Selfridges shopping bill through a personal shopper exploded to £51,000. A single London wine merchant tab reached £14,000. On top of that, £6,500 vanished through the Queen's official mail service just to ship lavish gifts like silver letter openers and designer cufflinks. The spending wasn't just luxurious, it was wildly out of control. And here's the part that really defines the chaos. She didn't pay the bills. They stacked higher and higher like piles of paper nobody wanted to touch, except every sheet screamed money owed. After splurging tens of thousands on luxury perks, a simple £500 newsagent bill suddenly became too much. Think about that. Massive shopping sprees felt normal, but a small neighborhood bill turned into an impossible obstacle. Soon, everyday businesses started chasing her. The butcher wanted payment. The dry cleaner demanded answers. A car hire company lined up for what it was owed. Even her BP petrol card got taken away because the balance sat unpaid for too long. That kind of cutoff doesn't happen after one late payment. It comes after months of silence, repeated warnings, and every reminder being ignored. For most people, losing fuel access would be embarrassing. For a duchess connected to royalty, it was almost unthinkable. The reality was simple. Consequences didn't feel real. When someone lives surrounded by privilege, bills can start to feel like minor paperwork meant for other people. There's a mindset that someone else will fix it, someone else will handle it, someone else will step in. Titles create distance from reality, and that distance can turn responsibility into an afterthought. But eventually, status stops protecting you. Creditors don't care about royal connections when payments never arrive. Local shop owners, service providers, and companies all wanted what they were owed, and no aristocratic title could erase those numbers. The financial pressure kept building, and by 1994, the situation had completely spiraled. Her debts surged past £3.7 million, a figure so huge it felt unreal. This wasn't casual overspending or minor credit trouble. This was the kind of debt that could buy estates and historic properties. Coutts Bank, known for serving Britain's elite, finally reached its limit. The demand was blunt and urgent, £500,000 due within 14 days. Not a polite reminder, a financial ultimatum. Then came the rescue nobody expected. Queen Elizabeth II herself stepped in to cover the crisis. A monarch famous for careful spending habits, known for switching off lights and reusing wrapping paper, had to write a check for £500,000 to rescue her former daughter-in-law. The contrast was striking. Disciplined tradition meeting reckless modern excess. You might think a moment like that would spark deep reflection. Being personally bailed out by the Queen should have felt like a serious wake-up call. Watching that level of support arrive should have pushed anyone toward responsibility and restraint. But the deeper issue wasn't just debt. It was a pattern of disconnect between actions and consequences. The bailout solved the emergency but not the behavior. Instead of becoming a turning point, it became another crisis handled by someone else. The spending habits didn't slow down, and the same risky patterns continued. For someone raised to value discipline and duty, the Queen likely saw the situation very differently. Covering such enormous losses must have felt heavy, especially knowing the cycle might repeat. And then the story took an even darker turn. Despite the royal rescue, the financial pressure kept growing. That's when Jeffrey Epstein entered the picture. By this point in the timeline, he was already a deeply controversial figure with a criminal conviction. His legal history and serious offenses were publicly known, and his reputation carried global scrutiny. Financial records later revealed that in 2001, Epstein transferred $150,000 to Ferguson. Her representatives said the payment related to business matters connected to her role as a Weight Watchers ambassador and claimed the money was repaid quickly. Still, that transfer became one piece of a much larger and troubling financial connection that continued for years. By 2009, her financial condition had shifted from unstable to critical. A business venture collapsed, leaving behind £630,000 in new debt. Total obligations were estimated between £2 million and £5 million. Bankruptcy was no longer a distant threat. It felt increasingly likely. Facing intense pressure, she turned to Epstein again for financial support. Pause and consider the weight of that decision. By this time, Epstein's criminal conviction was widely known and documented. The situation was no longer about unclear reputations or private rumors. His legal history was part of the public record, and associations carried serious ethical questions. Financial desperation can push people into difficult choices, but many individuals facing hardship still set personal boundaries about who they seek help from. Pressure can explain decisions, yet it does not automatically remove responsibility for them. In moments of crisis, character shows through actions. Then came the emails that later shocked observers. In October 2010, Ferguson urgently requested £20,000, saying rent was due immediately and warning that the landlord might alert newspapers if payment failed. The situation sounded surreal. Someone who had once lived in palaces and managed enormous luxury expenses now struggling to cover basic housing costs. Only months later, another request followed. She asked whether she could borrow $50,000 or even $100,000 to manage what she described as small bills. The scale of that phrase raised eyebrows, as six-figure sums rarely fit the definition of minor expenses. After funds reportedly arrived, one email response read, "You are a legend. Just marry me." The wording sparked widespread reaction and confusion. Observers debated whether the message was careless humor, emotional exaggeration, or something more serious. Multiple communications suggested a familiarity that went beyond formal financial assistance. Some commentators believed emotional gratitude led to over-the-top language. Others felt the tone reflected blurred boundaries created by ongoing financial dependence. Whatever the intent, the messages intensified scrutiny and added another layer to an already complicated relationship. Neither explanation makes the situation look better. If she truly had romantic feelings for a convicted offender, it suggests deeply troubling judgment. If the messages were purely transactional gratitude, that paints a picture of someone willing to say almost anything in exchange for financial help. Either way, the situation raised serious concerns, and it didn't stop there. The messages reportedly included repeated proposals saying, "Just marry me," appearing again and again across different emails. This wasn't a single careless joke made in passing. It became a pattern that drew public attention and intensified scrutiny. Financial reports later suggested that support connected to Epstein may have stretched across many years, with estimates placing the total assistance in the millions of pounds. That scale goes far beyond occasional help between acquaintances and points to a long-running financial connection. In March 2011, Ferguson publicly acknowledged accepting £15,000 connected to Epstein and described it as a gigantic error of judgment. She strongly stated that she rejected abuse of any kind and said she would not associate with him again. The statement sounded firm and final, presenting a clear break and a moment of accountability that many observers had been waiting to see. However, only weeks later, a private message surfaced that appeared to show a very different tone. In it, she described him as a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend to her and her family, and she expressed regret over publicly criticizing him. The contrast between the public statement and the private communication surprised many observers. The difference in tone raised difficult questions and fueled public debate about consistency, judgment, and personal responsibility. Years later, the situation returned to headlines when documents became public, bringing renewed attention to the relationship and its implications. The response was immediate. 7 charities ended their associations with her, choosing to distance their missions and reputations from the controversy. Among them was an organization she had supported for decades, making the separation particularly significant. Long-standing partnerships dissolved quickly as institutions reassessed reputational risks. A royal insider later claimed that Epstein viewed the connection strategically, seeing opportunities for social access rather than personal closeness. Reports suggested she was perceived as a pathway into elite circles, rather than valued for herself. Those claims added another uncomfortable layer, portraying a relationship shaped by mutual advantage rather than trust or friendship. In the present day, the overall picture appears difficult. Ferguson and Prince Andrew no longer reside at Royal Lodge, marking a major shift from earlier royal privileges. A London townhouse purchased in 2022 for £4.2 million was later sold at a reported loss of around £400,000. Financial setbacks continued to follow major property decisions. Her estimated net worth is now reported to be significantly lower than during earlier decades of royal life. While still substantial by ordinary standards, it represents a dramatic shift compared to the resources once available. Financial analysts often point out that long-term stability depends not just on income, but on careful management, sustainable spending, and responsible planning. Her charitable foundation also announced plans to close for the foreseeable future, reflecting how reputational damage can affect philanthropic work. Public trust is essential for nonprofit organizations, and controversies involving leadership often create lasting challenges for fundraising and partnerships. King Charles III took the unusual step of making public comments regarding family matters, departing from the monarchy's traditional preference for privacy. Official statements addressed concerns directly, signaling the seriousness of the situation. When royal protocol shifts toward public clarification, it typically reflects significant institutional pressure. Royal commentator Jenny Bond summarized the situation by pointing to a long-standing struggle with financial discipline combined with a desire for an extravagant lifestyle. Observers frequently note that the issue extended beyond isolated purchases. Instead, it reflected a broader pattern where spending decisions accumulated without adequate consideration of long-term consequences. The story ultimately reflects a disconnect between privilege and accountability. When consequences feel distant, financial risks can appear abstract rather than immediate. Bills become paperwork rather than obligations, and luxury becomes routine rather than exceptional. Over time, that mindset can erode practical judgment. As financial pressure intensified and traditional support systems reached their limits, controversial associations drew increasing scrutiny. Some analysts believe emotional dependence may have influenced decisions, while others argue the relationship was primarily transactional. Regardless of interpretation, it is widely acknowledged that the risks were visible and the reputational stakes were high. Beyond individual choices, the situation also raises broader questions about how privilege can delay consequences. Financial hardship for most people often leads to immediate and severe outcomes such as repossessions, damaged credit, or legal action. In contrast, elite networks sometimes provide temporary insulation through connections, extensions, and private negotiations. However, that protection rarely lasts forever. Public reaction intensified once documentation became widely available. Charitable organizations withdrew, media coverage expanded, and royal responses grew firmer. Long-standing associations that once provided stability gradually dissolved under mounting reputational strain. Today, public memory of the situation often centers less on earlier charitable initiatives and more on symbols of excessive living and controversial financial ties. High-profile lifestyles can magnify both success and failure, and narratives frequently focus on visible symbols of extravagance rather than quieter achievements. Many commentators describe the events as a cautionary tale about the risks of unmanaged privilege. Access to wealth and status can create opportunity, but without discipline, those same advantages can amplify mistakes. Financial mismanagement combined with controversial associations can reshape public legacy in lasting ways. The contrast is striking. A life that began with global ceremony and extraordinary opportunity, later marked by financial strain and reputational challenges. Royal status once brought influence, resources, and public attention that could have supported lasting initiatives and philanthropic impact. Observers often note that history tends to remember defining patterns rather than isolated moments. Repeated spending controversies, public scrutiny, and difficult associations collectively shaped how the story is now perceived. Symbols of excess became shorthand for deeper concerns about judgment and responsibility. Ultimately, the situation highlights how reputation depends not only on position, but on consistent decision-making. Trust, credibility, and public respect are difficult to rebuild once damaged. Financial losses can sometimes be recovered, but reputational harm often lingers far longer. Perhaps the most sobering aspect is the sense of lost potential. With access to education, global platforms, and influential networks, meaningful contributions were always within reach. Opportunities to redirect priorities appeared repeatedly over the years. Analysts emphasize that major downfalls rarely result from a single event. Instead, they emerge from patterns that continue unchecked until external pressures force change. Each stage presents moments where different choices could alter the outcome. In the end, the story serves as a reminder that privilege carries responsibility. Wealth without discipline can fade, and status without accountability can weaken public trust. Consequences may arrive slowly, but they often arrive decisively.